Hi guys, Blake here with Lilley's Landing Resort and Marina on beautiful Upper Lake Taneycomo. It is Monday, June the 29th of 2020, and I'm going to do the one cast for you today. So, I have boated up to the cable again. And today I've got a multitude of different rigs with me here. The first one I'm going to start off throwing is going to be a pink egg fly on top and a number 12 scud on the bottom. So I've got a 1/4 ounce weight. They're running 4 units of water. Got a 1/4 ounce weight on a snap swivel, followed by a barrel swivel. I got 6 foot a leader here. I've got my pinkish egg fly on up top, and something different today that Phil showed me right here in the middle. That is a tiny cork. That's hopefully going to float my flies up off the bottom a little bit. And then I've got a size 12 gray scud there. Take the boat off of anchor mode. Turn the power down on this trolling motor a little bit. Alright, and we're going to give it a try. I've never used a float underneath the drift rig before, so this will be a test trial for me and for everybody watching today. I'm going to try to attempt to keep my boat straight here. I want to cast kind of directly off the bow of the boat. Alright, I'm going to let the boat get and drifting with the current here a little bit. And turn the boat off. I was wondering why my boat wasn't drifting with the current. Well, I had it in forward still, and it was on. Alright. So, fishing reports for today. I don't have too many. Captain B was up here fishing with some clients. I believe they were throwing jigs. They caught a 23-inch rainbow, really big, really fat rainbow right at the end of the trip. We got a group that's running one of our pontoons, and they were out this morning drifting orange power bait and, well, I guess I need to turn the camera, huh? Drifting orange power bait and night crawlers, and they said that is what they caught the majority of their fish on. They said they had caught 18 or 20 fish already today, which is pretty good numbers, because I've definitely had some boats come back and say that they weren't catching anything. And I want to say I picked up some moss already. Oh, definitely. So nothing officially on the one cast there. that pontoon boat, they were also drifting, not drifting, but they were throwing some jigs, and they reported catching a nice fat 15-inch brown and some other fish on the sculpin and peach jig as well. So like I said, I've never used a float underneath a drift rig before, so it's something I'm going to have to play around with and dial in a little bit. But I've always wondered if there would be a good way to add some kind of flotation to where your flies are drifting at to get a good drift where your flies don't get all tied up in the moss. And so I don't really know if I put on a big enough float or not. Definitely had some moss there not too shortly after, so something I'm gonna have to play around with, but good idea if you're out here trying to figure out how to keep your flies out of the crud. Something else I do when I'm drifting is sometimes I'll make nice short casts instead of long ones, and sometimes the angle of the line drifting will depend on how much moss you pick up sometimes. They've still been running the same kind of water generation, keeping that 2 units on all night from 10 p.m. until noon or so the next day, and then they've been bumping it up to 3 or 4 units. Like I said, right now they're running a full 4 units. These are just some other flies, these peach and orange egg patterns, and the scuds and the San Juan worms and stuff are other good go-tos out here. Reel it in and check and see how much moss I'm picking up here. They just turned that 4 generators on roughly an hour ago, so it looks like most of it has cleared out, and I didn't have any moss on any of my flies. That is a good sign. Somewhat strong breeze. Once again, we've got some overcast skies today. Almost looks like it wants to storm. My weather app said that there was like a between 40 and 70% chance starting at 11 a.m. earlier and going until 2 or 3, which is what time it is now, and we didn't see any of the rain that they said was potential, so I'd say we're just got some overcast skies again. Honestly been a long time since I drifted some flies up here in the from the dam down to Trophy Run, so we're going to give that a try today. I find that generally if they're running 4 units of water A 1/4 ounce of weight is usually what you want if you're out in the main current drifting. Now once you get as far down as our dock and farther, you probably use less weight, but anywhere from up here down to our dock, generally main current 1/4 ounce. Now if you're drifting in like an eddy, you know, or around an inside bend where the water slows down, you can probably get away with 3/16 ounce. When they're running 3 units of water, usually a 3/16 ounce is the right weight. And then 2 units or less is, you know, depending on how hard the 2 units is 3/16 or an 1/8 ounce. And then if you're drifting in 1 unit or less, you know, a 1/16 ounce, or that's probably when I go to split shot, and I just add a little bit of split shot to my line until I get the right drift. And you really just kind of want it to tick along the bottom. You don't want it pulling and dragging too hard, and but you do want to feel it ticking the bottom. If it's not doing that, you need to add more weight. I've got a pretty decent drift going right now. This wind's kind of slowing my boat down, kind of causing it to pull a little harder than I want, but it's still got a decent tick going. And I'm gonna pull this in and just check for moss again, because I'm just having that little float on there is something new for me, so kind of feels a little different under the water. I did have a little moss on my egg. I'm using, on a couple of these I have, oh, there's a fish. On a couple of these I have 2-pound tests rigged up, and I think the one I'm using right now has 4-pound for my line and for my leader. And I'm kind of curious to know which fly he took. Feels like a somewhat decent fish here, actually. And he took the scud. Well, I guess I'm gonna have to try again if we want to see a fish today, because he got off right at the boat. I turned my drag down there, try to work him in slow, and so we could all get to see what a fish looked like today, but it still didn't work out for me. And so on this rig, I've got the that little float halfway between my first fly and my second fly. I was debating, because I've never tried it before, whether I should put a bigger float above both flies or a smaller one in between the two. So once again, it's just something I'm gonna have to play around with. And I'm feeling like, with the way I've gotten some moss each, you know, these last couple times, that maybe a bigger indicator wouldn't have hurt to get it to float up. And so that wind stopped blowing, and it actually turns out that without the wind blowing against my boat, I kind of need to slow it down with the trolling motor. Pull it in and check for moss again. I did have a little moss. Oh, that was a fish. Dang it. And I forgot to tighten my drag there. And when I went to set the hook, it just kind of gave out on me. So I'm thinking that maybe, now I've only had one bite, you know, that I know had a scud in his mouth, but I'm thinking maybe a double scud rig would have been the way to go at this point. I'm kind of curious as to whether they would hit this float as a bait, because it just looks like a little white ball. All right, no moss again. Another thing you can do sometimes if you're not getting the bottom is just let out extra 1 or 2 foot of line out of your spool. Coming up on Trophy Run, and I've got another fish. I think I'll use the net this time. That way we can all see what a fish looks like today. And he took the egg pattern. So far, 1 fish on the egg pattern today and 1 fish on the scud. That was a pretty rainbow there. There we go. Got one in the net this time. That was one way to do it. He totally broke my rig there. Alright. Well, I ended my streak of getting skunked here. There's a nice, pretty rainbow. Let's get that egg out of his mouth. He was definitely hooked very good. Got the hook directly in his mandala here. There we go. All right. So he took my rig, broke half of it off there, and let's see. I think I've got one other one here that's got amazing how they get tangled and I don't even touch them. So on this rig, this one is without a float. I rigged up a few each way. It's got that same 1/4 ounce, but it's got a peach egg here in the middle and a pink San Juan worm on the end. And so now I can play around for a second and figure out if the float helped out in not getting moss or not. I can definitely feel my weight on this rig bumping the bottom a little harder. And that one is snagged. Let's see if I kept all my equipment there. And I think this is one of the rods that had the 2-pound test, so it broke off pretty quick there. Let's see, got one here. Now this one is also without the float in the middle. I've got a size 12 gray scud and a cerise San Juan worm, same 1/4 ounce setup. I'm going to take the boat onto the other side, over to the north bank. When I drift past Trophy Run, I actually prefer this this north bank over here. For drifting. Now if I'm working a jerkbait, I do like that south side against the rocks better, but anytime I've been drifting a scud or any kind of fly, I generally do better over here on the opposite bank. This 4 units of flow is perfect flow for dragging one of those little jerk baits that we have up in the shop. I thought about doing that today, but it'd been so long since I tried drifting flies up here that I wanted to drift some flies. But so far we've got one on the egg pattern and one on the scud. don't really have any definite answer as to what's working better, but we know they're biting both of those. And I'm still having to use my trolling motor to slow the bait down, slow the drift down a little bit to get the right drift here. And I think we'll drift just a second longer, a couple minutes, and we're gonna have to call it a day. I gotta get back to the dock and get out the few boats, bring back in the few boats that we have. Been a slower day on the water. For our rentals and just in general. I haven't seen nearly as many boats as we saw this weekend, which actually some of our Mondays out here on the lake the last few weeks have been almost just as busy, so this one actually seems more like a normal Monday. This is the one I said was without the float, so let's see how we did on moss. And I've got a significant amount of moss on both flies. If I had time to drift the same area twice, I'd do it exactly to see if it was just the area that had more moss in it or if it was because of the float. But I'm thinking, just based on that little float was definitely helping out. Whenever the water's running this fast, I put the 6 foot a leader on here to help out and try to get the flies to come up off the bottom so that they don't get moss. That's kind of the idea behind that longer leader. I almost feel like I got moss again here, and I do. So I've got one last rod rigged up with one of those floats on it, and I think I'll finish the video off with that. Oh, okay. So this one's got that little float and a size 12 scud, and that is all that's on this one. This is not a double rigged setup, but it does have a small weight, so I've got to change the weight out there. Okay, so I got my 1/4 ounce on there. And we'll go for 2 more minutes, see if we can't find a fish. It almost felt like a bite. And I still picked up a little moss. Now this one is rigged up with only about 2.5 foot of line. I think that it would probably float up off the bottom a little better if it had about 5 foot or so. But this one was already rigged up. Alright, well, there's something to play around with. If you find a float size that seems to work better and is getting you up off the bottom and catching more fish, let me know on the comments. Oh, hey, oh, I had a fish on right there at the last second. But if you find something that works really good, let us know. We thank you guys for watching today, and we'll do it again tomorrow. Thanks, guys.